So something I've been really interested in talking about recently is Escape from Tarkov's newest recoil design that they leaked during, well, leaked, it was official BSG and Nikita showing off the new recoil. I've been wanting to talk about this mostly because it seems to be mostly negative, or the connotation is that this is not good. And I think, for my personal opinion, is that it's got a lot of things that need improvement, but that it's overall a better system than what we currently have and will lead to a better feeling game once we actually get to have it and play test. And whether it's ETS people play testing or whether it's goes live and we say, hey, we're going to need updates on this faster. You can see it in the background here. There's no audio, unfortunately, because I screwed that up, but I wanted to show it off anyways, and I don't think it super needs audio. Mostly we're going to be talking about the recoil patterns, the way it looks, the way it seems to be handled by your PMC. Because a lot of that stuff is totally okay, and actually what Nikita has said that he wants the auto compensation from the PMC. I do think there are some improvements to be made, particularly the white flashing. I know that guns are bright with the the flash at the end of the barrel, but I don't need to be flashbanged entirely white screened as soon as I pull the trigger. That's not exactly great. You can see the single and burst fire when you're scoped in, still not particularly great. I don't even super love, you'll see here where he shoots and the bullet looked like it recoiled downward just for the single shot. I don't know if that was, him pulling with the mouse afterwards or anything, but in general, I actually kind of think that the recoil looks pretty good when he's full auto. It goes up in a pretty relative controllable manner, it looks to be, and then it auto compensates with your PMC, which is, as I said before, something that Nikita has claimed is never going away. It's a system that they enjoy. So if it's easier to control on the way up and you can control it and pull it down and aim easier, that's a better system. I also wanted to discuss some of the negativity around this on Twitter, because a lot of the times I feel like we just got skull emoji, or Trey says this will be the end of me, and Trey actually goes further on in a second tweet that was a little bit better in my opinion. But when Nikita and BSG said they want feedback and all you do is skull emoji or L, which I kind of expect from Twitch chat to be fair, then they're not really gaining any feedback. It's also hard to give feedback on the short amount of clips that they got, but I thought the discussion should have been expanded compared to what we actually got, which is a bunch of people saying it was going to be bad or L or death skull emoji. Now, I do want to give some direct feedback. I think the single shot looks bad still. I think it needs improvement. You can see from the old stuff, it kind of seems random. I don't know if they're going to try to add randomness, but I always preferred even what we currently have for pure one-shot firing, where it returns to center nearly every single time. This is me with an M1A in my firing range, and it goes to center every time. I'm not doing anything. It's not the best system necessarily because of how much recoil per bullet there was, but if it's going to return to center, then it's always going to be controllable. Randomness should not be added on single shots, in my opinion. The next thing to discuss would be full auto as I pull out an M4 here. It won't be a meta M4 build. It will have some attachments, but they were saying in those clips when they were showing off the new recoil that they had no juice stock, no meta attachments. They didn't even have a forward grip on it. So this would automatically, with some attachments, should be better. But if you see these bursts, that does not look good. That first shot recoil to get to this from the first shot to the second is insane. It's almost uncontrollable. You just have to be immediately pulling down if you wanted to put any of those at any kind of range on target accurately. And next I'm going to dump the rest of the mag out into the second one to show you that even though the PMC auto compensates, the peak of the gun is still way above where it comes down to auto compensating at, which means that if I pull down to control the peak and then my PMC pulls down further than that, it's gonna be awkward. It's gonna be even lower than what I expect it to be. It's hard to maintain full control of a gun that if you decided no PMC engagement, then you would have the ability to pull down yourself and fully control it yourself, versus Nikita says that he wants the PMC engagement, Well, now the PMC engagement in the new clips is going to be keeping it at the peak recoil, which means you can control where that is and where that stays at, because you're going to know that, instead of it being more random where the peak is really high but it settles a little bit lower, so you have to pull down instantly for the first burst but then push it back up potentially for the next. And you can see that that even happens on higher caliber, higher recoil guns such as this MDR here. You know, it happens the same way. It peaks higher than where it settles at, just for the auto compensation of your PMC. The next thing I wanted to discuss was just kind of showing different recoils of different AS Vals. We all know that a couple years ago, the AS Val was the meta weapon. It was an absolute laser beam. But today, the AS Val has pretty bad recoil. So here it is. In its prime, it is a monster, an absolute beast of a weapon. All of those shots right on target, into the torso, no problem. I don't know that there's a single gun in the game that can do that without you touching it right now. But then if you look at a current AS Val with the changed ballistics, where I'm using SP6 in this, so it actually has increased recoil because of that pen round, it is ridiculously hard to control. This is not the most meta recoil build, but it does have pretty good attachments on it. It's got the rubber butt pad on that buttstock. It's got that RK2. Or it's the RK, the one on the B25 mount. That's a pretty good thing. And if you see, like, if you aim chest height, you're shooting way above anyone. There's nothing you can do to really control that, because it's a little bit random. See, you have to try to pull down, but then it goes a little bit lower. So I actually had to try to go up. It's so hard to control. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but I don't think this is a good system. And if we're going to go moving to a system that peaks and I'm going to be able to control that peak, I think that that's way better than what we currently have for any of these guns. But some of these guns with this high pen ammo are going to get these high recoils. They're still going to feel a little bit different, but this is just insane to me. You can even see trying to just burst it, it doesn't really work. By the time you reach bullets 2, 3, and 4 coming out of your gun, you're nowhere on target. Like I said, it's not the most recoil build, or like lowest recoil build in the game. It technically has 45 because of the SP6 rounds, but honestly, that's still a pretty good build. You know, we'll also show it off with SP5 here. SP5 actually reduces recoil by, I believe, 5. So instead of 35 vertical recoil, it will be 30. And you still be able to see it's really ridiculous. It's hard to control. I actually, again, have to compensate both downward for the first peak and then upward for the second, where my PMC starts auto-compensating and it comes down too far again. The burst fire, by the time you hit bullet 4 or 5 in this burst, you're at the ceiling of the shooting range. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And we'll be able to see Deadly Slop here actually does the same thing. It's kind of the meta build, it looks like, from the picture he had in the top. And it's still not great recoil. He's getting closer. He's also crouching, which makes it better. And that's not a great pattern. No scoping, that's not necessarily the worst. But why is no scoping on a farther target even easier than him trying to control ADS on a closer one? You know, we can go back to some of the newest recoil system clips, and you can see he's a little bit closer for sure than some of the clips in the firing range. So the amount of recoil and honestly, the amount of recoil can always be tuned a little bit easier than the system, but this I just think looks so much better. That second shot isn't at the ceiling. Hell, the third shot isn't at the ceiling. Currently, that's the way it would have been, especially if you have no recoil attachments. These bursts are a lot closer together for a few bullets. That looks great, in my opinion. Again, this flashing can be easily reduced. I mean, that's just, it's got to go. That looks horrible with how much white flash you get. But in terms of the burst and your PMC holding at the peak, that's way more controllable, in my opinion. And I think you're going to be able to just have a better time using your weapon, an easier time understanding what your weapon is doing and where your bullets are going in a firefight. And honestly, for Tarkov, that's some of the most important things you're going to be doing, is when you get into that hectic firefight, do you understand your weapon and your recoil? These single shots, those need improvements. The white flash, that needs improvements. But these bursts, these full autos, I don't think this looks bad. I would love to hear more people's opinions on it. someone else maybe going in depth again to what they think is a better system or a worse system, what makes this bad in their mind. Because like I said, I think a lot of the discourse has been just negative, negative, negative without any constructive breakdown. Was talking to my friends, seeing what the replies look like. I think I might be one of the few people on this hill of this looks pretty good to me. I don't think this is bad. This is not, I'm going to die if this gets implemented in Tarkov. But I think on the side of saying that this looks better, that might be a hill that I die on alone, or, very few of us. Most of the replies were negative. Most streamers were saying it was a worse system. They didn't like the way it looked. And I'm just a little confused because honestly, I think it's better. But I am no Tarkov pro. This is probably the wipe that I've grinded the most, I think. Including the fact that I took a large break in the middle when all the cheating stuff was going on. I'm not even level 50. I'm still working towards Kappa, hopeful to get it right before wipe. But I'm certainly not putting in the amount of time and hours or have the experience that some of these streamers have, or even some of you guys out there have, level 50, 60, 70. I've never been there. So maybe I'm just looking at this from a casual perspective too much, or something is clearly there's a disconnect in my mind to what looks good versus what most of the community has been giving feedback on this. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and let's start this discussion.